Are all of the people that I've talked to that are saying, here's why God is real. Here's my evidence. Here's my proof. That's just the thing. It's subjective evidence and proof that to you it proves that God is real and that He exists. But it's not objective evidence. And you can't tell someone that subjective evidence and expect them to say, oh, totally see your point. Now I believe in God. That's just, it doesn't work like that. What's going on, guys? So today I wanted to talk to you about two different ways to interpret the same thing. And that one thing that I want to talk about today is something, it's a word that's kept popping up in the comment section of all of my latest videos that I've put out in the last, week or two. And that word or words are evidence, experience, encounter, any way that you want to put that of being some sort of evidence, experience, or encounter that would convince someone that God is real and that He exists. Now, a lot of people that I see like commenting on my videos that have said, and I think I addressed this a little bit in my last video, that like you do experience God, you do encounter God, and here's how and here's why. And they will say, I know God is real, and here's how I know God is real. And those things don't help. And okay, I'm going to tell you why. Because the two different ways to interpret this encounter, experience, or evidence is by either objectivity or subjectivity. It's either objective proof or evidence, or it's subjective. And a lot of probably all of the comments or all of the people that I've talked to that are saying, here's why God is real, here's my evidence, here's my proof. That's just the thing. It's subjective evidence and proof that to you it proves that God is real and that He exists. But it's not objective evidence. It's like you can't tell someone that here's why I believe God is real, and you can't tell someone that subjective evidence and expect them to say, oh, totally see your point. Now I believe in God. That's just, it doesn't work like that. And so I think a lot of people, especially atheists, want objective evidence. Like they want some objective proof that this is why God is real. This is why He exists. This is the evidence, encounter, experience that I've needed. That is an objective sign, objective proof that God is real. And then the funny thing is, a lot of Christians, a lot of theists will say, here's my proof, evidence, encounter, whatever you want to call it, that God is real, and most of the time it is completely subjective to them. Now, I don't think I have to explain to people the difference between subjective and objective. I'm sure you get the point as I'm talking if you don't know what I'm talking about. But here's the thing. I think there's a place for both subjective evidence, where it's like, this is evidence for me, and objective evidence that this is something that everyone can look at and either think about, ponder about, wonder about, or say, wow, yeah, God is real. I think there's a place for both of them. And so this whole idea, I guess the idea for this video, because I've been thinking about this for a long time, the idea for this video, me making this video, came up when I was playing golf with my dad the other day, which my Aunt Carol told me one time. She's like, you either love golf or you hate golf. And let me just say, I'm not a fan. But anyway, it was fun just hitting golf balls on the driving range with my dad. And while we were doing so, we were talking about this. And he asked me a question. He's like, so what's the difference between your story and Thomas's in the Bible? And I said, I don't know if there is a difference. And then I forget what the other question he asked me was, but it was along the lines of like, what sort of like objective experience do you need to believe in God? And this might surprise you all in, everything that I just said, but I'm actually not looking for an objective experience or objective proof that God exists. If I have learned anything from the Bible, from scriptures in a theological sense, I know that God, and this is like a theological debate or conversation that I have with my parents a lot, or we've had it before many times, is that the difference between how God reveals Himself in the Old Testament is completely different from the Old Testament to New Testament. And I can go more in depth about that because it has a lot to do with the difference between faith and belief and how they've changed over the course of the however many year period. I mean, I guess a long ass period, between when the books, between when the, what am I trying to say? Good God. Between the point of when the Bible, Genesis 1:1 and the end of Revelation, whatever it is, 21, 24, Revelation, I forget. But all that to say, there's a difference between the two. And so, man, that was a rabbit hole. Where did my thought process go? What was I even saying? My God, this happens to me all the time, even in conversation. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So in the New Testament, I understand that God reveals himself, or did reveal himself, in subjective ways. In the Old Testament, it was more objective. In the New Testament, it was a lot more subjective. All right. So going back to the conversation that I was having with my dad yesterday, is that like telling him that I don't necessarily care about a objective experience or encounter or whatever you want to call it, because there's something about that I feel, for those who believe in God, they say this is evidence, this is objective evidence, this is something that everyone can look at, and they say that God exists. But that's not entirely true, because there's also our interpretation of it. So it's like, for me, a lot of objective evidence that I've seen thus far can be kind of really just swiped away and explained away by logic and reason, rationality, all these sorts of things. But for me, what I want and am looking for is a really subjective encounter, experience, evidence, whatever you want to call it, that I personally understand, that for me, it's not something, I don't really care about, having a testimony, having a story. I don't care about that anymore. I did at one point, but I just don't care. I don't want to be able to explain something away by rationality, reason, logic. I feel like I need something or want something that has been spoken to me in a very subjective way, a very, this is something that I understand. This is something that I get and understand. But at the same time, there's no way out of it in my head. There's no explanation up here. I think that's the key for me, is I do want this subjective experience, but it's I can't. There's no way that I can rationally stop what's happening, or there's no way that I can rationally say, I don't know what that was, because this and that. I hope I'm doing justice and explaining myself well in this. Probably not. But a subjective experience, I understand, theologically speaking, that is historically, theologically, in the New Testament, that is how God reveals himself most of the time, or in this day and age, whatever. It's going to be really interesting in the comment section hearing what you all think about this, theists and atheists alike. So here's another thing. In the conversations that I've had with atheists, speaking about wanting a objective proof that God is real and that he exists, I think, from what I know theologically speaking, if God does know how many hairs are on my head, if he does know the desires of my heart, if he does know this, and that, just because you see something and say it's God, doesn't mean, and I think this might be the difference between objective proof and subjective proof. Just because you see an objective proof doesn't mean that it's the God who knows how many hairs are on your head, who knows the desires of your heart, who knows exactly what you need and how to love you and all of that. But a subjective experience would prove that. Would really, it would say, I know that God sees me. I know that I am. It's not just a God that's out there, whatever, but it's an actual God that is personable, is relational, is. So now, having said everything that I've just said, which seems like a lot, But I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to do another video explaining myself. But before you comment on any of my videos or this video saying that God is real and here's why, just think, is this a subjective experience or is this an objective experience? Because if you're trying to persuade the way I think, and by the way, I'm not asking people to comment on these videos saying, persuade me, please. Like, I want to hear your argument because I think it's going to change my mind. Newsflash, I don't think it's going to change my mind. I don't think anybody says can change. I grew up in the church. I've heard everything that you have to say that could change my mind. It's just, like I said, I want that subjective experience that's between me and God, where I can't explain it away through revelation, rationality, logic, any of that. Like, it's something that is personal to me, that I know, wow, this is God, and He does see me, He knows me, all of this stuff, and like it's been an encounter, a personal experience to me, and it's this subjective proof. Like, I don't really care about being able to say, like, here's my proof, and once you hear my proof, I expect you to believe it too. I know that's not how it works. And so it's amazing to me that it's like people commenting on my videos thinks, oh yeah, this is exactly how it works. And it's like, here's my proof, and so you believe it too. It's like, no, that's not. It's not how I operate. It's not going to work like that. So all that chaos being said, I am very interested to hear what you all are going to think about this. So leave a comment below, and let's get into it. Oh man, I always look forward to the comments after making these videos. It's going to be great. It's going to be good. So yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and share. If you didn't like this video, I am sure you're going to put a thumbs down on it. So that's good. And I'll see you misfits in the next video. Peace!